Hello everyone and welcome back to another Batman miniature game 3rd edition battle report on a new table layout that doesn't have a lot of verticality but have brought in a lot of the original version of the Back to Gotham Star set cardboard scenery to make it very dense scenery wise. Joker's apparently set up his carnival here. And today we're going to see 350 rep of the Court of Owls with their brand new objective deck. So we'll be seeing how that performs like the organised crime one last time. Going up against 350 rep of the League of Assassins, who are a very strong objective deck. And before we get started proper, I just want to mention, because this is the most apt place to do it, because this is the Batman miniature game, it's very nearly my birthday, and my sister and mother gave me my present early, and it was the most amazing thing I've ever received. It was a happy birthday message plus pep talk from Kevin Conroy, the voice of Batman, which is amazing. I showed my Twitch chat the video when I was playing. Well, we weren't playing the Batman. I'm playing the Batman games over again on my stream, but I wasn't doing it at that specific moment. But if you're also a Batman fan, it might be worth watching. I posted a little clip of when I showed my chat to my Twitter, so you can find a link to that below. But I just thought I'd mention it because you might find it as awesome as I did. So, with that, let's get started. Actually, there is one more thing to mention. If you do want to pick up some miniatures for this game at a good price in the UK, you can check out the Top Hatted Hamster via the link below, including the code to get some money off. It's not an affiliated link, not earning anything from it. I'm just trying to help out a small retailer. Anyway, let's get into this. So here's the League of Assassins list first, just to cover the teams we've seen before, or sorry, the crew we've seen before. Talia is leading the group this time, with Ubu as her bodyguard. New to the table though, we have Shiva. So she's arrogant though, so she likes attacking people who are as strong or stronger than her, which is a bit of a negative. But she is a very good martial artist and should hopefully perform well today. Then we have League Acolytes 1, 2, 3, 4. Are they listed in the right order? Who knows? But there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. It's the League Acolytes that came with the new race releases for 3rd edition. The 2 with the bows have extra ammunition, and the 1 with the sword that's plunging down has a venom dose and a grapple gun. Oh, and Ubu has, I think it's called Shadow Training, gives him undercover, so he'll be able to deploy 8 inches outside of his deployment. And here is the Court of Owls, the new and improved Court of Owls, not just because they're for objective deck. They have been rebalanced, tweaked and whatnot for 3rd edition. Specifically, the reanimated owl rule now is an extra heal, rather than what it used to be, which was re-rolling chances to wake up. Well, we'll get to it in a second, but the Court, who are not actually on the table, it's just a visual representation, they can only be hurt by revealing suspect markers. They're the leader. Then as a sidekick we have the alcoholic High Court lady, who's just going to be wandering around with her little glass of wine and hopefully providing buffs. And then the actual meat of the list we have from the back right there of a Talon, we have Strix, we have the Gotham Butcher, and we have the new miniature Dementor. So there's a plethora of upgrades to go through first, but the Gotham Butcher has been massively buffed in 3rd edition. He's got +1 endurance. He was given desensitized, so now that he can't get knocked out, he just takes blood damage if he takes full stun. He is much more valuable, and also the Talon has throwing knives now as well, so it's not just Strix that has throwing knives. As far as upgrades, there's a bunch of upgrades to go here. These 3 at the back here have been given genetic mutation, or mutilation? No, mutation is right. To give them fast for that extra couple of inches of movement. The Gotham Butcher has a camo vest, and so does the Talon, I think. And then Dementor here has a grapple gun. I'm probably forgetting an upgrade. I think Gotham Butcher also has the one that gives him Master Fighter as well for some rerolls on his physical attacks, because everyone else is not using their hands. Other thing to remember is that anyone with an owl knife, specifically just the Talon I think, in this particular list, that now has crushing. It's still just single blood, which isn't great, but the crushing means it needs, or the target needs 2 defense per 1 attack through to stop it. So they're a bit more consistent, hopefully. And you'll notice this card here with great art from, I think that's from Night of the Owls, when they all go after like the politicians and whatnot. This is their card for how things work. At the start of the game, place 3 friendly owl markers, which were the original, their like unique objective from 2nd edition. Place them anywhere in the gaming area at all. When a model is removed as a casualty, you're allowed to move them, one of them, for 4. And they're used to do a new mechanic for the Court of Owls objective deck, which is mark people as prey. You need an owl marker near someone and also a suspect marker. It's a little bit hard to pull off. Tried this digitally a little bit, and it is a little bit of a tricky deck. It's also a bit nebulous when the start of the game is. Like, is it when you decide who's going first? Just before first activation? When you've set up the table? You know, it's a little weird that it isn't super duper clear. But either way, these 3 L markers, we'll go over where they are during deployment probably, once we get both crews set up. So here we are at deployment. The Court of Owls are deployed to your left, the League of Assassins on your right, and it will be the League taking first activation. There is, however, a lot to cover, because you might also notice there's already suspect markers on the table, and that is due to one of the 2 Phase 2 cards that the Court of Owls are playing. So we will take a look at where everyone's deployed, etc., but let's cover those first. The first one that is being played is called Owl's Knight, which is hopefully in focus. So this is just in play till the end of the round. It gets markers put on it depending on what happens. If they kill a model, it gets 1 marker. Kill a model marked as prey, they get 3. And as long as you have more on this card than there are enemy suspect markers in play at the end of the round, it scores. Not super likely in turn 1, very, very unlikely in fact, but it's a thing in play. And the other one that was played is Gotham is Ours. So target 2 scenery elements and the opponent targets another. Place a friendly suspect marker within 4 inches of each one. At the end of the round, have at least 1 suspect marker within 4 of each 3 scenery elements. So there's 3 suspect markers put down. Court of Owls selected the Batmobile, suspect marker. This truck, suspect marker. And then the League selected this and have put the suspect marker there. So it will not score if any of those 3 suspect markers are removed and another one is not put down in its place. So basically just one of the League can go back, reveal that, and it's exceptionally unlikely anyone's going to get over there. Would waste an activation, and again it is just a card in play to kind of force the hand. So you can also see Ubu, because of his shadow training, is outside of deployment. He's got Audacity, so does the Falconry Archer, so does Talia, and so does Shiva up there as well. The court itself, the visual representation of the court has hidden, so that's why it's plopped down there. It's exactly just outside of 12 of Ubu's line of sight, which is a legal placement. And the L markers, one's on that building, one's on that car, and the other one is... where was the other one? There it is. It's just chilling in the street. And then for the Court of Owls, Dementor, High Court Lady, Gotham Butcher, and Strix all have Audacity. The Talon does not, but he was able to deploy in base to base with a sewer marker that's just inside deployment. That's like right up to the 8-inch line. So with that, we are ready to finally get started. So although the League do have 1 potential pass they could use, they activated the normal bow wielding Acolyte, who, thanks to the Inspire from Talia, without Audacity, just moved over to that suspect marker and removed it. So if the Court of Owls do not put a suspect marker within 4 of this, that will not score the Gotham is Ours card by the end of the turn. The physical representation of the court itself was first up for the Court of Owls. They did not have Audacity, they just used a special action for their turn called Shadow Perch, or Shadowed Perch, one of the two, which means you remove them, or them rather, and place them within 4 inches of any L marker. So they have put themselves smack dab there. They'll be able to do an aura that either like they can demotivate an enemy, or they can provide the, what's it called, Boss's Orders buff, where anyone within 8 of them, henchmen, get extra dice or something. The High Court Lady has it as well, but positioning them in a place where they can influence a lot of people seems like the best bet for them. Ubu activated, and first of all, Eradicate the Order was played as a free resource to make him immune to smoke, literally just to get it out of the hand. There is no other reason for that, because it was not going to score, so it is just to mill out the deck. And then he moved up with Audacity, put down his suspect marker, and in doing so, scored an under their noses. A friendly model places a suspect marker within 4 inches of an enemy suspect marker, and thanks to that marker being put next to the truck, that is 4 inches. So the League of Assassins is on the scoreboard for 2 points. The High Court Lady, who could definitely stop drinking anytime she wants, activated with Audacity. She moves 6 inches, so she just kind of shuffled, swaying ever so slightly as she went up to here. She put down a suspect marker for her tactical action, and then for her special action used the aforementioned Boss's Orders. So if a henchman within 8 inches of her attacks someone, they get +1 attack die. The dual knife wielding Acolyte activated next without Audacity, but close enough to Talia to get an inspiration to put down a suspect marker. Did exactly that after moving into base to base with the sewer marker. Also, just to mention, totally forgot, Talia at the start of each turn can try and manipulate the battlefield to force a model to activate last. Totally forgot. Going forward, we'll try and make sure that's remembered. But anyway, he has put down a suspect marker. That is the second in play for the League. They're a little bit behind, with the Court of Owls still having 3 up. Strix activated with Audacity. She's got 10 inches plus Acrobat for 11, more than enough to move in between the two amusement stalls there, and she chucked throwing knives at the knife acolyte, got 2 of them through for 2 blood. Now double check boss's orders. It is not henchmen within 8 inches that benefit, well, they do benefit from the extra die, but the target has to be within 8 of the aura provided by boss's orders. It's a little bit weirdly worded, but that seems to be the case. Either way though, she did just do her normal attack dice with her throwing knives, got 2 blood through on that acolyte, who has, I think he's got 4 HP left. The other close combat based acolyte activated again without audacity, but close enough to Talia to get the free manipulate, or sorry, the inspire manipulate, and also used it, moving up ahead, removing dog hair, removing up ahead to put down a suspect marker as well, outside of 4 of that one there, bringing their total currently to 3. Dementor activated for the court next, and he has the unstoppable monster rule, which I think Solomon Grundy is the only other person who has that. When he begins his activation, he must charge forwards 2 inches. So he started roughly there. He did so. He used a special action to activate his grapple gun that was bought prior to the game starting, and that gave him 16 inches to play with. He shot up on top of the weapon store here. He put down a suspect marker next to the L marker, but more importantly, next to the wounded acolyte, which triggered the scoring condition for the Shadow's Claw, which we'll try and get. Well, it seems like it's okay in focus. Place a suspect marker within 4 inches of an enemy model that has at least 1 blood marker. He's got 2 on him, so that is the first actually scored card for the court on the board. The Falconry acolyte down here stayed still so he could fire his bow. He used his Falconry skill since he had audacity, which means he can target anyone within 16 regardless of line of sight, as long as they're within 4 of a friendly suspect marker. So that basically meant he could just target Dementor, which is what he did. And he fired at him. Dementor has light armor, and he did not take advantage of removing a suspect marker to get an extra die thrown in, and he rolled a 2 and a 1. The bow is mechanical, which needed a 3, and Dementor's base defense. Actually, no, he wouldn't have even got that, would he? Because the light armor would have removed the strength die. But either way, it did not get through, so his 1 poison caustic arrow. Actually, you know what? Because it's caustic, it still does 1 damage because it failed. That's what caustic does. I just recently had to learn that again. So it did fail. Actually, no, because... oh, this is complicated. Because he would roll the strength die plus 1 other, but he has light armor which takes away a die, and it's a ranged attack, so the strength die goes away first. So that doesn't count as it failing because you didn't get to roll it, so presumably caustic wouldn't kick in, because caustic does damage if you fail to damage. So I believe, actually, he took nothing, which is what we have it as. But that's a little confusing. And either way, that's his 1 poison caustic arrow gone. He still has 2 normal ones, or 3, 1 plus 1 on however many normal ones he would have, but he can't move because it's aim, so he's stuck there and didn't do anything else. Second last activation for the Court of Owls was the Gotham Butcher. He charged forwards 10 inches base, I think, with plus fast, so 12, but it was not enough to get him round the corner to Ubu, so he is stopped just there in front of the High Court lady. Didn't do anything else. He can't do anything that doesn't involve murdering anyway, I think. Oh, actually no, they changed the definition of the murderer rule. But either way, he isn't doing anything this turn. Lady Shiva activated and moved down here to place down a suspect marker, and you might see that there's a counter on it, along with every one of the other existing suspect markers for the League of Assassins, of which there's 4. That is because multiple threats is being played. These new objective cards are more shiny than the old ones. Is that in focus? Hopefully. Target up to 6 friendly suspect markers without numeric counters on them. Place a counter on them at the end of the round, roll 1d6. If it matches any of the numbers in play, you score the card. So, as long as it's not a 5 or a 6, on the assumption that the Talon isn't going to reveal one of the suspect markers, this will score, but we'll roll it on camera in a second. So the Talon activated, he was there, he did not have audacity, he manipulated the sword grain to travel through it, and has come down here where the thick of the combat is probably going to happen in turn 2, so he is right there, and that does take us to the end of the turn, so we're just very quickly going to roll the 4. Okay, well that means that the multiple threats does score, because there is the number 4 right there, but we'll also cover any other scoring cards in a second. So then about round 1, there's no stun damage to heal and no additional damage to heal on any of the Court of Owls. There is, however, 1 additional card being played by the League. Do not deviate from the plan in a Phase 4. In focus, hopefully, soon. Coming soon to a theatre near you. An in focus objective card, there we go. Your opponent did not reveal any of your suspect markers this round and you placed at least 1. They placed 4, so that is another easy 2 points for the League. And on that note also, at the end of the round, both Owl's Knight and also Gotham is ours, do not score because no suspect marker within range of that, and the court didn't kill anyone that turn, so they did not score. And with that, we are ready to go into battle round 2. We're technically about ready to start turn 2, however, it was noticed that Talia did not have an activation in turn 1. Now, there wasn't much for her to do because all of the suspect markers are too close for her to even really place one. So she's just moved forward slightly, and that's where she's starting turn 2. We're still going to finish setting up turn 2 and seeing if there's any cards being played, etc. But yeah, I totally forgot she hadn't activated, so that has been corrected now. So now we're really at the top of turn 2 proper, and it will be the League of Assassins going first again. Did also forget to mention, but there was obviously one Court of Owls suspect marker revealed in the first turn, so the court itself has taken 1 blood damage, and they're not reanimated owls, so they don't heal that, so they'll keep taking damage if suspect markers keep getting removed. You can bring them back on, but it costs, you have to give one of your audacity to them to make it happen. So a lot of people in the middle here have audacity. Ubu does, the Falconry one does again because he can just keep on peppering shots in as long as there's suspect markers. Talia once again does, and so does Lady Shiva for the League. Dementor has audacity, Strix and the Gotham Butcher and the Talon all have audacity for the Court of Owls. And once again, there is 2 phase 2 cards being played by the Court of Owls because they're very, like, they have machinations and plans and such, but they're also very brazen about them. Like, they don't sneak up on people to assassinate them. They walk in and say, hey, I'm going to murder you now. So that, I guess that's the difference between them and the League. So the first card being played is Terrible Accident in phase 2. In this turn, as long as they kill either the enemy boss or the model with the highest reputation cost, it will score. Although in this case, I believe both those are actually the same miniature because Talia is like 100 rep on the dot, and I'm pretty sure no one else is higher than that. So she is both the boss and the highest rep miniature. So if she dies this turn, that is 3 victory points. And the other card being played is the Mission, which is the Talon, William Cobb's, unique. Target a model with the reanimated owl trait. That model removes the current enemy boss or model with the highest reputation cost from the gaming area. Oh, I just realised this isn't one you have to play early. This is not one that is in play, it's just if it happens. No, but how would that work though? That can't be right, because you have to announce which model is doing it. Target a model with the reanimated owl trait. I guess either that's the wrong symbol, and it should be an end of the round score, so you play it. That has to be an end of the round score because you play it in phase 2. They put the wrong symbol there. Well, I guess not, because it's... No, yeah, it is the wrong symbol, because the diamond means it scores as soon as the criteria is met, but there's no way to, like, stop that happening if you've killed the boss in a given turn, because you select the new boss at the start of the new turn. Weird. Either way, so yeah, it basically is a clock. It's just they've used the diamond for some reason, even though it is essentially exactly the same as Terrible Accident, just with a little bit more criteria. You have to select a model with the reanimated owl trait. That model is going to be Strix because of her double blood katanas being pretty deadly. So knowing that the Court of Owls is coming for her, Talia activated, but first she did use her Manipulate, which is at the end of the Raise the Plan phase, which is phase 2. So it's after those cards have been declared. She selected Strix. Strix failed her willpower roll, so Strix has to be the last to activate this turn for the court, meaning that it's very unlikely she's going to get to Talia, even if anybody does. Talia then retreated because there was nothing else for her to do. She could have technically charged in and tried to kill Strix, but then she'd be within range of the Butcher and Dementor, and as tough as she is, I don't think she would hold up against that particular onslaught just by herself. So she did retreat next to her Falconry Acolyte. Didn't do anything else. She could have ordered someone to put down a suspect marker, but there's too many in this close-knit area. First to activate for the Court of Owls for turn 2 was the court itself. It can't move, so all it did without audacity was Boss's Orders. So it now has generated the 8-inch bubble around itself that if an enemy within that 8 inches is attacked, the attacker gets a +1 attack die. Lady Shiva activated, and via her adaptable, which was forgotten to be mentioned in turn 1, she has once again buffed her defense, because she's just doing subtle subterfuge right now. She came down here with her 10 inches, and put down a suspect marker, which did the important thing and put more points on the board for another under their noses, because it's within 4 of that friendly suspect marker right there. The High Court Lady did not have audacity, but she did activate, and she manipulated the suspect marker she put down in turn 1 to reveal it, or remove it, and turn it into valuable commodities. And this actually is the updated version of this card. So she's now holding on to the loot. Not exactly the tankiest of models to be doing so, but it also got a card out of the hand and in play on the table, along with the many others that the Core of Owls apparently like playing. Ubu activated next for the League of Assassins with Audacity. He moved into base to base with the Talon, and he went full effort, as did the Talon, so 3 stun damage suffered each. His double blood scimitar. Bad roll, good defense roll. Only 1 hit got through with it though, for, well, it was the strength die, for 2 blood. But the Talon did obviously take a lot of stun damage there, so did he. But yes, so finally we're getting into the nitty gritty of the combat, I think. The Talon activated in response rather, and he has genetic alteration, so he is fast, giving him a total of 12 movement. He sped past Ubu down here into base to base with the Falconry Acolyte to make it impossible for him to fire that bow this turn. The Falconry Acolyte, knowing the Talon couldn't really efforted full 3 times. The Talon did not do any, and as a result also just was rolling the strength die plus 1 other, I think, or 2 others, and did not get any damage through, so technically got the 3 stun, but that was self-inflicted. The other bow acolyte activated to help out his friend. He stayed still so he could fire his aim bow at Talon, and 1 arrow got into him, plugged him for 2 blood, so that's 4 blood on him of his 7 HP, I want to say, 6 or 7. The Gotham Butcher activated, and remember he also has genetic alteration, so he's fast. Actually no, he has it by default, I think. Either way, he moved on top of the Batmobile, moved through here, more than enough to get into base to base with this acolyte. He efforted full 3 times, doing blood stun with his claws, Master Fighter as well from an upgrade, so +1 to his rolls, and all said and done, 5 blood, 5 stun. He had 2 blood on him already. This acolyte has been removed. Didn't score any cards on it. Interesting to mention, the new definition for the murderer rule. He now has +1 inch to his movement forever, and can make 1 free effort forever. And if he kills someone else, that's cumulative, so it goes up again, which is pretty awesome. The new Zaz has this as well. And if there was another enemy within line of sight within 4 inches, it would have applied the scared effect. Sadly, in this case, there's no one within 4, but 1 threat has been removed that hadn't activated this round. So it was the Falconry Acolyte to go first, but you might notice that this L marker has been moved. Forgot that when anyone is removed as a casualty, an L marker can be moved 4 inches, so that one was moved closer to Talia. So the Falconry Acolyte couldn't shoot because he was in base to base with the Talon, because his bow has aim. So instead he just ran over here and put down a suspect marker. Remember, the court isn't actually here. Put down a suspect marker, and that triggered "We cannot be defeated," because you have at least 3 suspect markers that are within 6 of each other. Those 3 are within 6 of each other, just outside of 4. It doesn't score till the end of the round though. So if Dementor or Strix, when she eventually gets to activate, decides to remove one of them, that will no longer score. But it would mean obviously that their turn is taken up by doing that instead. So, tricky. So Dementor activated, and first of all his unstoppable monster kicked in, which actually made him fall off the building, but it's not far enough to hurt him, so he was actually roughly there. He then moved his 10 inches. It wasn't enough to get into base to base with Talia, but one of his weapons, his sickle, has reach, so as long as he's within an inch he could attack. And he has stealth and sneak attack, so she was not allowed to effort against his attacks. He went all in with 3 efforts. All said and done against Talia's defense 4. He got 3 hits through for 3 blood, 3 stun. Oh, she's actually poisoned as well, so that'll be on there as well in a second. But she's got 7 health, I want to say, which means I don't think Strix can get into base to base with her. She can throw throwing knives at her, but the maximum damage from that would be 3, so it doesn't seem likely, unless Talia dies to poison at the end of the turn. I don't think she'll die this turn. So it was straight over to Strix to end off Battle Round 2, thanks to that Acolyte getting murderized by the Gotham Butcher. So 10 inches base, Acrobat for +1, Fast Alteration for 2, giving her 13. With Climbing Claws, she still could not get to base with Talia. She could have got like right next to her, and she doesn't have reach. But she stopped there. She used Rapid Fire for her special action, so she had +1 range die for her last load of throwing knives she had on her. Talia is an acrobat though, so she efforted another 3 times to take away 3 of the dice, leaving 1 normal die, which did get through for 1 blood, but she did live. So at the end of Battle Round 2, not only are all the reanimated owls healing 1 stun as normal, but they can heal 1 other damage of any type, blood or stun, thanks to the new definition of that rule. So many of them have healed 2 stun. In fact, all of them have who were wounded, because I don't think any of them have blood damage besides the Talon. And Talia did not take damage from her poison, so she is still fine. Very unlikely given her, her stats, but either way. Did forget to mention incidentally, during Dementor's turn, he did try and inspire fear in her, but her willpower is high, so she passed the test. And victory points wise, we cannot be defeated scored, because those 3 suspect markers are still within 6 of each other, and eradicate the order scored as well for more suspect markers in play than enemy suspects. So another 5 points. And if we go over to the Court of Owls, their terrible accident does not play. It does not score rather because Talia lived, and the mission also does not score because actually I've just realised now why this isn't a clock. It stays in play between rounds. You play it in a phase 2, but it doesn't go away at the end of the round. I assume. It could still be an error, but because it's not a clock, that means this is still in play. So if Strix kills her next turn, this could still score. I think that might be what it is. But Terrible Accident definitely gone. Did not score. So it is the top of round 3, and much to Talia's chagrin, it is the Court of Owls going first. And not only that, but Strix passed her willpower roll, so she doesn't have to activate last. Not only that, but there is 2 more phase 2 cards, once again being played by the Court of Owls, and one of them is another Terrible Accident. And because they're both in phase 2, the mission and this can score simultaneously, because they're not being played during her activation. And the other one is another Owl's Knight. Now, unfortunately, due to card draw, I haven't been able to mark anybody as prey just yet, but normal kills accumulate on this as well. Still, there's like 6 enemy suspect markers, so it's very unlikely that will score. But the Court of Owls just like having stuff in play, I guess. So with that, let's go to their first activation, which I'm sure everybody knows what it will be. So Strix actually began her turn by playing a phase 3 objective card, but it's not scoring this turn, so we'll just cover that at the end, but just to be clear, that's what she did. She moved into base to base with Talia. Talia had enough left over to do 1 effort. Strix went all in to try and make this happen for 3. It's just as well she did, because her attack roll actually wasn't that great. Her katanas are overwhelming though, and she does have handy on them. It did 4 blood. Talia is gone. She is not getting a turn, and that is immediately scoring the mission for the person dictated to do the murder doing it. Technically, Terrible Accident doesn't score till the end of the round. I presume that's because some crews have the ability to resurrect. This crew does not, so just going to count it as scored now. Now, because she killed someone, an L marker gets to move 4 inches, and that is in relation also to the objective card she played. The L marker that was there has been moved even further back 4 inches, and that is because the court's Secure Bases has been played. When you play this card, choose 1 friendly L marker, that one right there. At the end of every enemy model's activation, if there's no enemy models within 4 of this, put a counter on it. Once the counter reaches 3, score the card, and it's just in play for the rest of the game. It does not have to be this round. So that'll tick up slowly unless someone gets over there. Ubu activated for the League, who's probably going to be the new leader but at the end of the turn, but we'll see. Played another We Cannot Be Defeated, because the same is still true of these objective markers. Until the end of the round, obviously they can be removed, but we'll see. And another one could be placed down, to be fair. It isn't just a case of, oh, one's been removed, that's it. Anyway, he couldn't get close enough to this L marker, so it's going to have a 1 tally on it. But he did go into base to base with the High Court Lady. They both efforted 3 times. He got 3 hits through for 6 blood. The alcoholic has been murderized, so she has also dropped her loot there. Still potentially possible for a Court of Owls person to pick it up though, or just to have it at the end of the game, so it is still in play. The Talon activated and went into the other acolyte with the bow, who efforted 3 times against his single blood owl knife, sharp handy, crushing, sorry. The Talon, because of his blood injuries, still could only do 2 efforts. All said and done, 2 cuts got through for 2 blood damage. Lady Shiva activated and simply moved well within 4 of that owl marker there, so that tally is going to be stuck on 1 until she decides to move or is moved. But it stays in play, because it doesn't go until the end of the round. Oh yes, and when Talia died, that put exactly 1 marker on this card. Again, it's not going to score, because there's way too many League of Assassin Suspect markers. Still keeping track of it though. The Gotham Butcher activated, who was next to that sewer grating right there, and during his turn, another Court Secures Their Bases was played, this time on this owl. So this owl is also going to start tallying. Now, on the off chance they somehow manage to score at the exact same time, only 1 will score, but that's not likely. But if that did happen, then obviously 1 is a waste. But this obviously has problems, because you can't be in 2 places at once, so that is also in play. He charged around here. He went into base to base with the acolyte with the sword, and they both efforted 3 times. He only got 2 hits through, which wasn't that great considering how many attacks and his 2+ strength and critting on a 5 and a 6 and what have you. 2 blood, 2 stun, but thanks to the self-inflicted effort damage, he did actually manage to knock himself out and will not be getting a turn. And now that Talia's gone, the mind control substance will not be waking him up automatically. The Falconry Acolyte activated without Audacity. He just shot an arrow over the car into the Talon's back, who does not have Acrobat, and he took 2 blood from it. But he's still alive. I think he has 2 health left. So now it's over to Dementor for the Court of Owls. Oh no, or the Court actually. And then the only one left for the League is the other bow-wielding one who can't fire it because the Talon is still alive. So Dementor had to move 2 inches and then immediately backtracked up to here to put his suspect marker down and trigger another the Shadow's Claw, because there's at least 1 blood on him and he's within 4 inches. So that has scored. Once again, having a problem with getting it in focus. Any second now. It's working up to it. You can tell. There we go. So it's scored. He did try and inspire fear in him as well, but the willpower roll was passed. So we can actually just quickly cover the last 2 activations of the penultimate round. Not being able to fire his bow, he simply ran away because he doesn't want to risk being marked as prey if a L marker gets moved over here while that suspect marker is there, so he just ran. And that also meant that this ticked up to 2, because it ticked up to 1 for him, but I forgot to do it. And for the Court's actual turn, they manipulated the suspect marker that had been placed in base-to-base with them. I think that's still allowed to be done, even though they're intel support, and that will also mean, as we go into the recap for this round, we cannot be defeated, turned out to be defeatable. That does not score. So then in battle round 3, the Acolyte who was knocked out has actually woken up, so he's just knocked down now. All the reanimated owls have healed 1 stun plus either 1 stun or 1 blood, thanks to the new definition for the role as covered. And there is 1 phase 4 card being played by the League. Another Eradicate the Order, have more friendly suspects than enemy suspects in play. There's only 3 Court of Owl ones. Oh no, there actually, hang on, there's 4. And then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah. They still have it, So that scores for another massive 3. And as for the many cards in play for the Owls, the Valuable Commodities is still in play because that loot can still be picked up. The Owl's Knight only had 1 marker on it, so it does not score. And then both the secure bases are also still in play, and one of them is going to score unless the first person to activate for the League does not get into range of it. So at the top of the final turn, all the survivors of the League of Assassins have Audacity. Oh, except the gentleman who's right next to the Gotham Butcher, because he's probably going to be murdered. Everyone in the Court of Owls crew except the Court itself also has Audacity, and there is a Phase 1 card being played by the League of Assassins from the Shadows, so this is the mark a target for assassination and make sure they're the first casualty. The Talon is being marked because he's actually very close to death. And it is the League getting first turn. I can't remember if I just said that or not, so that means they got first activation 3 out of the 4 turns. And there is, of course, there's a Phase 2 card being played by the Court of Owls, because that's their whole thing apparently. Another, the last, terrible accident. Now, I did say, I believe that Ubu is the new leader of the League of Assassins. He is not as high reputation as Lady Shiva though, so they are both potential targets for this card. So the Acolyte over here was the first to activate for the League of Assassins in an attempt to kill the Talon. He just needed both dice to get through, a 3+ on the strength die, 4+ on the normal. Only the strength die got through. Oh, sorry, he did use good aim for his special action, so he was getting +1 to his rolls. But only the strength die got through, so it was 2 blood, leaving the Talon, so knocked him slightly, leaving the Talon on 1 HP remaining. Good aim also means he's allowed to move after, or before, or after firing an aim weapon, so then he retreated over to the Ferris wheel over there to try and get away from murder range. Oh, and forgot to mention, with his activation this would tick up to 3, which in turn has scored the Court secures at their bases for that particular owl. The other one is still in play, but with Shiva there will not tick up. The Gotham Butcher activated, and the Court's secure bases was played on that owl again, and there's exactly enough enemies on the table that if none of them choose to go over there to stop it scoring, it will definitely score. He attacked the knocked down Acolyte, did 3 blood, 3 stun with his claws, and removed him. He had used his Venom Dose this turn, not that it matters, and then he moved over here. Also, speaking of which, this L marker, thanks to there being a casualty, was moved 4 inches away. It's just outside of where Shiva is. Obviously she can immediately move back in, but that would mean she'd have to be the next to activate, or Ubu, either way. So Lady Shiva did indeed activate. She went over here so she was within 4 of that owl marker to stop it being counted up for the secure bases. She also revealed the suspect marker that was right there in front of the Gotham Butcher in order to score the 4 roses. A friendly model reveals an enemy suspect within 6 inches of a friendly boss. Ubu is the new de facto boss thanks to Talia's untimely demise, so that has scored for another 2 victory points for the league. Strix activated, hopped the car into base to base with this Falconry Acolyte. They both efforted 3 times, did not stop her, doing a massive 8 damage to him and scoring for a measly 1 point, but hey, anything matters now in the last turn, inflicting at least 6 damage. Scored that card for the court, and unfortunately though, because he's not getting a turn, that means there's only Ubu left, so it doesn't matter about either of these owl counters, whether there's enemies nearby them or not, because they will not reach 3 by the end of the game, because it only goes up on enemy turns, which sucks, but that's how it goes. So last turn of the game for the league, Ubu activated, ran away 10 inches, picking up the Court of Owls loot as he went, put down a suspect marker over here, and then played a multiple threats, and there's actually 6 suspect markers on the field for the league, so unless any of them are removed, this definitely scores because it's just a dice roll to match at the end of the round. There's still the court itself, I don't think can do much. Talon and Dementor to go. I don't know if any of them can do anything to matter at this point, but let's see. So both their activations have been done. The Talon is erasing the suspect marker, so if a 5 is rolled, that will no longer score the multiple threats. 1 in 6 chance. Dementor activated his grapple gun and went right across here and actually did get within 1 inch of Lady Shiva, because this is 1 inch thick. They both efforted 3 times, all said and done. He got 1 hit through for 1 blood, 1 stun, and poison. She is in no risk of dying. That's her first blood damage. So unfortunately, Terrible Accident will not be scoring. Neither will Valuable Commodities, because Ubu ran off with it. And for the roll for the... I don't believe it was actually a 5. Okay, well that means multiple threats will not be scoring, but I don't think it will matter. So I would be exceptionally surprised if the League of Assassins don't have this one. The Court of Owls deck is very hard to work if you don't draw the cards early that help you mark as prey, and if the opponent is able to avoid confrontations around the owl markers so that you can't mark them as prey anyway. But let's see how things went. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Playing 5, 6, 7, 8... 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. 19 plays 13, a comfortable win there for the League of Assassins, although their deck is a lot easier to score. Just want to show you what ended up in the final hand for the Court of Owls. Kill someone marked as prey, or mark someone as prey as a resource. Kill someone as prey, or mark them. Kill someone as prey, or mark them. Oop. And then the court's edict. The court didn't actually do anything, but there wasn't anything for them to do, which isn't great because you have to kill 2 prey in 1 turn. The reason you take this card is for the 1 cost resource, where if you've lost anyone with the reanimated owl trait, they come back at full health next to the court, which is pretty amazing. Didn't get to see it because the Talon didn't die, but not that it matters. I think this is a case though of where the League of Assassins has won the battle but lost the war. There was, what, 1 half-dead Acolyte left. Ubu's almost knocked out. Lady Shiva was the only person on the match. Oh, there's a truck stops outside the window. Lady Shiva is the only one who hadn't really been touched, and she doesn't do blood damage, she does stun. So the Owls would definitely have taken everybody out, but this is a game of points. It is a tricky deck. This is obviously the first time using it live. Used it once or twice now digitally. It's really hard to work. It really is, especially again if you either just can't make marking as prey work, or the opponent just knows to work around it. Like, don't go near a suspect marker that's near an owl marker, just stay away, and they can't do anything about it. Well, actually, there is one way to do, or one thing to do about it. Bring Ephraim Newhouse so that you can count enemy suspect markers as friendly for the purposes of marking prey. An objective deck being usable should not be dependent on bringing one specific miniature, in my opinion. So it needs work. The balance changes to like the Gotham Butcher, Talon, etc. Fantastic. Owl Knives still feel like they don't do enough damage, even with crushing, because that's all they have. They're basically like glass tigers. So they get in there, they hit, but then it doesn't take much to take them out. Unless you don't kill them in one turn, and then the extra healing is nice. They're in a better place than they were, I feel, but thanks to the prey mechanic, their objective deck is not great, but workable in certain situations. But you shouldn't have to bring it from Newhouse every single time to even have a chance. But maybe there's more workable ways to bring them. The court itself basically did nothing, but they're nice and cheap, so it's cheaper than bringing Lincoln Marsh. Although I guess you could drop them and the High Court Lady, and bring him instead. I'm not sure. It was the first go live, so there will be other goes as well. It's just, this was a tough matchup. The League of Assassins deck is, I think, second only to the Soldiers of Fortune, I think, more or less. Or maybe even above them, I'm not sure. They've got so easy to score cards. If you just have a bunch of ninjas and acolytes and whatnot to just go put suspect markers down, it's so easy to do that. Anyway, I'm rambling. Thank you very much for watching. I sincerely hope you enjoyed. See you in the future. Next time we might get to see the Penguin deck, the new Penguin deck for the first time. Let's see how that goes. Until then, ta-ta for now.